Guys, this is the big reveal of the car. Hello guys, and welcome back to the Volkswizard channel. Now, a couple of weeks ago on Instagram I posted some photos of a Mk2 Golf GTI I'd just agreed to buy. Well, today, 2 weeks later, I'm on my way to collect it. The Mk2 Golf GTI is probably the most significant car when it comes to Volkswizard. It was my third ever car after a Mk2 Polo and a Mk2 Golf CX, and it was the car I started Volkswizard to buy and sell. In fact, this car is a car I sold 18 years ago to the guy I'm going to buy it off today. His name's Alan, and he is the guy that actually owns my Corrado VR6 before I bought it, so he's quite a good guy to buy cars from, though this collection hasn't been without its issues, as this video will explain. Okay, well, it's 2 days after I should have collected the car, but you may recall we had a real cold snap, and because this car was leaking water during the summer, owner Alan, hello, decided to put water in to top it up and didn't really think about the consequences when it was going to be freezing, did you?
No, out of sight, out of mind, and
yeah. And you're normally a really good owner, aren't you?
I'm trying to keep it maintained. Yeah, this year I think I only did about 600 miles, so it's not had a service this year, so that's probably my bad.
Yeah, well, they might not have noticed that anyway, because they don't, unless they check the coolant, which doesn't really happen. So we had the cold snap. I was meant to collect it 2 days ago. The car was frozen. There was ice in there, wasn't there, Alan, in the header tank? And this was all crispy, yeah. So today, luckily, we've had a real quick thaw, and we've just replaced this metal water pipe, because we thought that might be the reason why it was leaking, but actually on closer inspection, all these connections here, which don't have the correct factory clips on them, have got residue from the coolant. So it's probably that which we've tightened up, but it's holding its water now, so we haven't had the core plug popping out the back of the block, which can happen. So I can now pay Alan for it and drive it home and start the project properly. I've driven it around the block now quite a lot, and it does drive really well, which is a big credit to Alan. And Stelz, yeah, Vince at Stelz Racing, yeah. And your wallet then?
Yeah, so I contributed to his pension a few times, but it's all good.
Yeah,
I look forward to the project.
Yeah, good. I'll look forward to reliving my youth. Well, this is where Alan keeps the Mk2, and it's sat here not very long. It's not like a car that's been standing around for months, is it, Alan?
No, I put it away at the end of October.
Yeah, so not long enough for it to have affected it.
No.
So yeah, it's nice big garage, or is it the Mk2 is really small? I can't work that out, but I'll let you get it out then. Guys, this is the big reveal of the car, by the way. So it's a 91 model year, H-Reg, 3-door, 8-valve, in grey. I think it's pearl grey. There's also Atlas grey in the brochure, but I think this is pearl. It's got a non-standard exhaust, but it's got a standard one in the boot that I can fit if I want. It's not too loud or chavvy. It will sound loud in here though. So there we have it, hydrocarbons aplenty. I kind of missed that, although it's probably not good for my lungs. We've got BBSRAs, which I don't think are correct for an 8-valve in 91, but they still look brilliant. Pirelli tyres, it needs a good wash. It's a very original car. I think it was originally supplied by Dovercourt in probably Battersea, because that's a Southwest London number plate. Hopefully it's got some coolant in it actually. Let's have a look. See my fingerprints over it. Yeah, loads and loads of coolant. Right then, Alan, hold out your hands. I've just bought myself a Mk2 Golf GTI. Well guys, it's a big moment. This is genuinely my first drive in this car, apart from a quick test drive before, so I just need to get it out of here. We have got power steering, which is essential for a Mk2 Golf. I used to, when I owned mine, I lived in some flats that had garages like this, and trying to manoeuvre in was hot and sweaty work at the best of times. So it just feels like a modern car when you've got power steering. Less of a classic, but it's classic enough, I think, nice and small through this. See you, Alan. Thank you very much. We've got a few parts as well in the car. These aren't bits that have just fallen off. They're spare parts, which is always good when you buy a modern classic like this, because some parts can be really hard to get. Just listen to that. There's a little problem with the handbrake switch in that that's on all the time, that it gets better as it warms up. We've got lots of condensation here because the car's been stood. And the heater blower only blows on the top speed, but at least it blows. That's usually the resistor in the blower motor. A bit of a rattle from this non-standard stereo. But, you know, it's got half a tank of fuel. Thanks, Alan. Merry Christmas. It idles well. It doesn't seem to want to cut out when you come off the gas, which some of them do. Handbrake feels all right, which is good. It's got a uprated front engine mount as well. Got a sunroof that works, unlike Corrado ones, which are a bit more complicated. And the gear shift feels nice. I think they used to go into reverse by mistake quite a lot. People would back into people at traffic lights. But this one feels tight. Again, Alan spent a lot of money at stealth racing, so the fundamentals are usually okay. And he's not a particularly hands-on owner, so all these fiddly little trim bits I'm looking forward to doing. I mean, he even pulled out the bag a brand new, genuine metal water pipe for the what we thought was leaking under the bonnet. Genuine. I thought, where did you get this from? Because they've been obsolete for a long time. But then he's had the car a long time, so he just picks up parts as he's gone along. Right. And we haven't got the second gear crunch. That's quite a common problem with Mark II Golfs. A lot of them lived in London. They were the car in the 80s and 90s, and they just sat in traffic going first to second, and they wear out the second gear synchromesh. So even stone cold now, this ex-South London car, I don't know how long it lived there, but it was delivered in Balham. It feels sweet, very sweet. Clutch is nice as well. And nowhere to stash your trade plate, so that kind of does roll around a bit. They're just so torquey as well. You can put it into fourth now at below 30 and it just pulls with a cold engine. There's a massive, always has been a massive 8-valve versus 16-valve debate, probably since that car came out in 86, a 16-valve. And having driven loads and loads of them, I'd always be an 8-valve man, because a good 8-valve with a few miles on it, it's been well looked after, feels as responsive most of the time as a 16-valve, if not more, because it's got a lot more torque. 16-valve's got a lovely top end. It's great for a track car, but you really have to thrash it, and you don't really drive like that very often. The other problem with 16 valves is a lot of parts are unavailable now, so things like warm-up regulators and all the fiddly Bosch Cagetronic stuff, it's really tricky to find. I'm sure there are ways of getting the bits, but with an 8-valve, A, there's less to go wrong, and B, it's a bit newer, so you can actually get the bits still. So I'm not too worried. Unlike the Corrado, Mark II parts are relatively easy to get, though we were talking when I agreed to buy the car about the rear lights, because if it had the half-tinted rear lights, it would look like a 92 model year externally. They were like peanuts a few years ago, and now they're hundreds of pounds, so that might have to wait. But yeah, the essentials, I think, are not too hard to get right. Let's get out of this town and find some good roads. Well guys, it's great to be back in a Mark II Golf GTI. It's weird because I've never had one on the channel before. I've had Mark II Golf G60 Limiteds, the holy grail of Mark IIs. I've had Mark II Golf Rallies, which again are super rare. I've just never had the bread and butter, which is a Mark II Golf GTI, whether that be 8-valve or 16-valve or even a GTI G60, which might be coming in the future. So yeah, it's a very significant day, not least because I've not driven one properly for a long time. The last one I sold was probably before the price had rocketed. Must have been at least 5 years ago. I got some really good cars towards the end of my selling of them, and I really should have kept them, but you know what business is like. The other reason why I never kept one for myself was because the units that I rented, every space has to earn money, so it's very difficult to start accumulating cars there, because then they start making it difficult for you to actually do what you should be doing there, which is buying and selling cars to make money. So that's why I never did. But now, because of where I've moved to, there's sort of lots and lots of parking. This will be, I think, the 6th car on the plot. I feel a little bit more self-indulgent, and a bit like the Corrado, I felt that was the last time when you'd be able to get one at a decent price, and that's kind of how it's worked out actually. And with Mark II as well, I left it a bit late, to be honest. Alan paid, and I've got the receipt here, Alan paid £4,000 for this back in 2004. That was quite expensive back then, but it had done quite a low mileage. It had done 54,000, and it's on about 115 now, so we've pretty much doubled it in the 18 years. Now this car's got some little bits you will not tell from the outside. It's got Coney top adjustable shocks and eye-back springs, so it's a little bit firmer. 8 valves can be a little bit of a pudding. I think it's basically Golf CL suspension on those, so they're not particularly poised, but they're quite a light car, so they kind of get away with it. But they're super comfortable. This is a little bit more fidgety, probably similar to a 16 valve. I think the ride height looks a lot better as well, because 8 valves can be really high. So externally, the only way you can tell this isn't a 16 valve is by the lack of the roof aerial and the badges. That's it, isn't it? Yeah, also we haven't got the half tint rear lights, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, so first gear, and it revs out nicely. It's got a bit of top end there, about 4,000 gets going, and that's 60. I mean, gosh, that's such an elongated process to get there, but it's so enjoyable. All 8 valves in particular actually were quite rorty. This is a little bit rortier. It feels like the seats are down, which they're not. So I might be changing that, but Alan just did it because it gave the car a bit more character. Apart from that though, if you put it into neutral, it's actually quite a quiet car. We don't have wheel bearings thrumming in the background. Can we brave and overtake? Let's do it. 3rd gear. Yay! And into 5th. This is not the best of days for collecting a car like this. It's really wet, but at least it's not cold. It's 20 to 8 in the evening according to the clock, and oil temperature 92, that's good. Ambient 4 degrees out here. Okay, well, we're going to stop off now. I'll give you a tour of the outside. We're going to a place where it's quite significant when it comes to Mark IIs, because one of the co-owners, Phil, he's a big fan of them, and I actually sold him one about the same time I sold Alan this. It's a small world. Let's have a quick look at this isn't my, I can't believe it, my Mk2 Golf GTI. So as I said earlier, 3-door 8 valve, that was going to be guaranteed what I was going to buy to keep, and pearl grey was actually the peak colour. You can get an 8 valve in oak green if you go to 92 model year, but they're really hen's teeth, and I think condition, price and sort of everything else is much more important than colour. It's even got the GTI badge, which Volkswagen press office's unregistered Mark II doesn't have. The wheels, everybody thinks these are 100% standard for an 8 valve with big bumpers, but they're not. They're only standard on the 16 valve. They weren't even a factory option, so they're always been retrofitted, but that's because so many got crashed and stolen. Parts were sort of aplenty a few years ago. They're quite hard to get now. It's got Pirellis on it. It's got this exhaust which is in a similar vein to the original, but a bit bigger and a bit louder. But as I say, in the boot, we've got some goodies. So when it comes to modern classics, as I said, having parts is really kind of crucial. So there's lots of rubbers in there. There's the exhausts and a box full of other goodies. And there's some oil as well. Don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. At the back then, it's just got the orange rear lights because it's an 8 valve, but it's got all the correct badging. It's got the body colour tailgate panel, which is trim there, which is correct for a big bumper car. I think Alan's going to supplied one of these because with people pressure wash cars, they kind of damage that. We've got some new window rubbers as well, which are in there. They're actually second hand, but they're better, not as perished as the ones on the car. 120,000 miles or so, and it's mint. So this interior is easily the best wearing one because we don't have the piping on it. Just got a wave from the friendly Warwickshire policeman down there, came in for a coffee. Obviously a Mk2 fan. Wheel arch trims, yeah, all good for a project. Correct steering wheel then, so power steering cars should have this. Non-power steering cars, the wheels are a bit bigger, and this sort of curves around a bit down here. This car had a new instrument cluster, so it's under reading a bit, but this is all fully documented from before I sold it to Alan. It says 73, we've worked it out, it's 115,000 now, still super low. Stereo wasn't original when I sold it to Alan. Bear in mind the car then was 13 years old, so in the great scheme of things it was nice and original, and it seems to be quite free of rust. I'll just show you under the bonnet. I need to do a full buying guide on these in due course, but the first thing you need to look at with the Mk2 is whether it's got that sealant there on the top of the wings, because that pushes the water down to the drain hole which is in the scuttle, and when cars have new wings they very rarely have those. So if you're looking at a Mk2, just check for that. It doesn't matter if it's had a new wing, but you need to look for more damage down here if it has. Got the stickers on the slam panel as well. They kind of move them from there to there, and sometimes that's because there should be soundproofing under here, which the 92 cars 8 valves I think do have as well. It needs a bit of a clean. There's a bit of an oil leak there from an oil pressure switch. Also sticking out the top there we have the Coney top adjustables. That's a really nice touch because, like I said, they're pretty good, but they can be made better. Another Mk2 thing is that you have to push, I think some spring's broken or something, you have to push the lever back in for the bonnet to shut. And there we go. Anyway guys, that's it for now. That's just a very quick look at the Mk2 Golf GTI that I've just bought. There's going to be a full video in due course, hopefully when it's not raining, so keep a lookout for that. Hope you've had a great Christmas, have a great 2023, and yeah, see you for the next video very soon.